Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
How are you today?
You know, I'm still riding a little bit of a high from 2 days ago
Mhm.
when the Buffalo Bills obliterated the LA Rams.
You're telling me. Good for my fantasy team.
Literally, after the touchdown where Josh Allen pulled on Michael Jordan in Space Jam with his arms across the line, I literally texted you and I was like, your fantasy points tonight, though.
Truly. I will say, so I'm against my friend Dom this week, and he did have digs on his team too. I still have more points so far, but it's a good
But
counter, I guess.
the game was amazing. Von Miller's happy dance every time he sacked his old QB was just too much for me. I was dying. When Odell Beckham Jr. tweeted that he wanted to join the Buffalo Bills after the game, even though he's currently just like on the bench from the Rams, I was like,
I did not see that. That is so funny.
it's amazing. Um, Isaiah McKenzie did his sister's gender reveal when he got his touchdown. The close up of his camera as his like victory was he told her it's a boy, and somebody tweeted and was like, "Wait, well, if he hadn't gotten a touchdown, like how would he have done the gender reveal?" And he goes, "Bitch, I guess we'll never know."
Love that. I Bills are my second team for sure, for sure. Um, so I was thrilled.
The Bills are going all the way.
Yeah, probably. My team isn't gonna be there this year. We have a new head coach, and I don't think our quarterback knows what's left and right anymore. So bless his heart. People say really good things about him, but he's just not there yet. So
Well, and my
it's a
favorite
silver
was for some reason people are like obsessed with Jalen Ramsey, who is a corner for the Rams. He didn't do shit against us.
no.
No.
The Rams didn't do anything.
The only person on the Rams who I can genuinely say had a really good game, Darnell Arnold was good on defense, and he is one of the best defensive players. So like,
Of
fine.
course.
And Cooper Cup deserves the hype. Like 100% everything that he did, I was like, I'm not even mad. Like
I think he
Cooper,
might be the one from my hometown.
okay, Cooper Cup 100% deserves the hype. He is
Yeah,
really good. He did like he pulled out some like ballet toes just to make sure that he was in bounds for his touchdown. Like
right.
he's smart and he's good. And we had a rookie defending him,
He's not.
which doesn't make sense to me why you would put a rookie on Cooper Cup, who's the number one rated
No.
receiver in the league. That's fine. Because we still beat them by 3 scores. So
Yes, quite a bit.
but I was watching the game with my boyfriend,
Hmm.
and when the game started, we were on separate couches because we were eating dinner. And then dinner, we I finished eating and I cleaned up and I went and I moved and sat on the couch with him. And then the Bills gave up a touchdown and a field goal.
I was like, this team's dangerous.
And then he moved to a different couch and told me that he's sorry, but he's superstitious and we were winning when we weren't sitting together. So now we can't sit together. And then we won the game. So now I'm never going to be allowed to sit on a couch with him during a Bills game ever again because then we'll lose the game. Like that's his brain. And I told my mom and she goes, because he's smart.
That's a real bummer for you, but like also now you know
Yeah.
you can't not do it.
Right. Like now I know and I can never sit on a couch with him because we will lose the game.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Maybe just like anytime you're waiting for anything, just like don't sit on the couch with him.
Yeah.
Wait until you get your answer for it, whatever it happens to be. So, not to ruin it. Sorry, you cannot sit with your boyfriend ever again.
Yeah, sorry. We're just never sharing furniture ever. Until the Bills have a Super Bowl ring, I cannot share a couch with this man.
Yes. Correct.
And now I just put that on this
This year.
podcast, which means it's legit. I mean,
It is installed now.
yeah.
Yep. Um, well,
How was,
speaking of the
yeah.
game and my week, I was at the bar when the game was happening, which is like honestly the best place to be for a football game is like working at a bar because you get to like watch it good quality. It doesn't matter what channel it's on, we have access to it. So like
Right.
I don't worry about finding the game if it's not like easily accessible. And
Right.
there's like 8 TVs, so I can no matter where I'm at in the bar, I can see what's happening.
Perfect.
And being the first game of the season, everyone was there to watch the game.
Mm-hmm.
So like when things are happening, if I'm not asking them if they need something, it doesn't matter because no one cares that I'm there.
Right.
Like I can leave them for 10 minutes to go watch the game because they're also watching the game.
Right.
I had actually a very like positive week at the bar, which is very stressful because it has not been this normal for a while, but we're starting to get back to like where we were when I started at the bar, which is fun. I'm feeling much more positive. We had a good night Thursday. I didn't get out till like 12:30, which is good for hours.
I mean, I wasn't working and I was just watching the game and I didn't go to bed till after midnight because the game ended so late. So,
Well, like everyone closed out at like with 3 minutes left in the game. Like they were there for the game and then they left. So like I
yeah.
just had a few other tables that had come in, didn't seem to know what was happening in the world. But then Tuesday night, I was working at the bar and it was hit or miss. It was fine. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything special. But everyone was like busy in the front and I needed drinks. And I was like, I can bartend. I've never done it. I can do it. And so I did. So people like ordered like beer and wine. I was like, no big.
Yeah.
Pour a beer, pour a wine. We're fine. Keep going. And
As
then
long as you know that, as long as you know the angles to do it at, you're fine.
right. And so I was like, yeah, no problem. And then this guy orders an old fashioned. And I was like, no problem. I got this. I was like, I know what an old fashioned's supposed to taste like. So I'll make it, taste it, and then see if it's fine. And so he ordered it with makers, which is so good call. So
Mm-hmm.
I made it. And then I was like, oh no, I think I forgot something. So I looked it up because I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I made it correctly. And I was like, okay, all right, here we go. And I tasted it. I was like, tastes like an old fashioned. Okay, we're making progress. So I gave it to him. Didn't say anything, just handed it over like normal. What
Yeah.
about my business? He ordered another one. I was like, all right. So I went made another one. And then when he closed out his check, he looked at me and he goes, this old fashioned was so lovely. And I was like, I'm a pro now.
You are. You're officially proud.
Never made an old fashioned in my life, but I nailed it. So I told Caitlin that, who was one of well, she's going back to Ireland now, but that was like the last night I was working with her. And she was like, what did you put it in? And I was like, bourbon, simple syrup, bitters, and an orange peel. And she's like, she just looked at me. I was like, yeah, normal. I just made it normal.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know that. I don't know. Eh.
Yeah.
It was very funny. But so I'm a pro now. I'm ready to bartend.
Perfect. I love
Throw
it.
me in, coach. I'm ready. Um, yeah. So other things we're ready for is to be spiritually
Woo-hoo.
affirmated. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word.
It's not affirmed. Affirmed.
I didn't want to use the word
Affirmated?
affirmed. And because it's affirmations, I didn't want to use affirmed.
But that's the correct English
I
word.
don't care.
Oh, okay.
That is not the word I wanted to use.
Some of us apparently don't care about just making bullshit up.
Absolutely not. Not at all. My top priority in life. Um, so for today, don't forget that you get 24 hours, even on your worst day.
I don't know if I understand it.
Like, make the most of every moment. Like, even when you feel like you can't accomplish anything, you still get the same 24 hours. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if
Somet-
it's true. Sounds like a lie. I don't think I
I
get the same
mean,
24 hours in every day, but
yeah.
whatever.
Some days I really wish it was less.
Most days I wish it was more. I need more time to sleep.
Mm. Yeah, no, sleep. I would take extra, like a whole 24 hours of just sleep.
Yeah, like if we could like alternate what we do, like one day we do stuff and one day we sleep.
I could function for 24 hours straight if I then got to do
Sleep
nothing,
for
like
24
sleep
hours.
for 24 hours. Yeah,
Yes, correct.
100%.
Yeah, the world would be a better place. No question.
For sure.
So that's our new plan for the world.
I like
Um,
it. I like it.
yes, I'll start implementing it now.
And then you don't have to worry about people who are like, oh, well, I work a night job, so I'm only ever working at night and I never get to see the sun. Like, yes, you do
Yeah,
on the day that we're functioning.
yeah, exactly.
And you can even rotate it with people so that the world doesn't collapse, like alternate.
Hmm.
You just have to make sure that your friends are awake on the
On
days that
your
you're
side,
awake.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the people that know each other are on one side, and then everyone else is on the other side. But like, if it starts that way from day one, like you never even know the other
You
side, so
never
you
even
don't
know
have to
the
worry
other
about
side.
it.
You only know your side. But then like, oh my God, what about like there'd be like a romance novel about a girl who like meets someone and it turns out they're actually like on the other side, but they like had like a one day where they just wanted to know what the other world looked like, and then they like spend their whole lives trying to figure out how to make their lives work because they're on the other side.
So, fun fact: I am currently writing a very similar story to that. It's not super romancy, but it is essentially that story. So,
Because
stay.
we have the same brain.
I've literally been talking about it. Like, 3 or 4 months ago, I came up with that idea, like to do that, and I was like, "This is gonna happen." I haven't been writing enough, but yeah, it's the third story in line right now.
Oh, okay.
So I have my main story that I like have finished but need to finish. Then I have
Hmm.
my second story that I like actually started writing, and then I have my third story that like has notes. So
I miss writing, but I also miss reading, and I haven't finished a book for myself in so long that I'm like, I can't start writing because I haven't even read a book.
right, I audiobooks. I literally just finished reading a book that I've been reading for like a month and a half.
See, I don't consider, I know it's the same thing and I like the information is fine, but like I don't get the same feeling from an audiobook as I
Right.
do from reading. I need to like hold a book in my hand, but I'm
No,
also like, I'm also, an English teacher.
I usually I usually have a book I'm reading and then I listen to audiobooks and I make it
Mm-hmm.
through a lot more audiobooks because I can listen while I do other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it just takes me ages to read an actual book.
Well, and then
And
I
so
do
like
stupid
I
things,
just do
like,
both.
think that, oh, I only have like a week of free time in my life. I'll read the fifth Game of Thrones books. That,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
not enough time.
no.
I also did the same thing with the Game of Thrones books, which is why I've only read a third of the first one.
I'm 3/4 of the way done with the fifth one, which is the last one that's out. I'm so close.
You were killing it.
But I also started that one over a year ago. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I literally I Kindle is doing like a challenge. They do like seasonal challenges and
Hmm.
love a good challenge. You get like bookmarks. It's not like physical. You get nothing physical. But they give you bookmarks for certain like stepstones. And so one of them is like reading every day. So I've been reading like one chapter of my book every day. And it took me a month and a half to read like
Is that like on Kindle Unlimited?
no, just on the Kindle app. Like I'll see if I can display for you. I've lost my phone again. Okay, I found it. So we like you just download the app. I have it on my phone, and when you go to the Kindle, this is the book I'm reading. It has like challenges. You can kind of see that,
Oh, that's so cool.
and you just click on it, and it's the Epic Summer Challenge is where we are right now, and so it has like bookmarks you get for different stuff, and like the next, and then like one opens every like 3 weeks or so,
I
and
love that.
so I
When I,
have it started in July and the end of September is the end of this challenge. So like
yeah,
I've got to read for oh God, I can't do math, 16 more days to get the last gold reader challenge. And then I have to read every day for a month, which I may or may not have missed. Great to get my perfect month badge. And then I have one more mystery badge that opens on the 14th. Um,
when I get my new computer, it's a tablet 2-in-1.
yeah,
So I'm gonna download the app on that because I don't like reading on my phone. It's too small.
I agree. Yeah, That's fair. I read it on my phone because I usually read it like while I'm going to bed. I'm like I do my Duolingo and then I read a chapter of my book and then I go to bed.
I do my Duolingo right before I go to bed too. Except for last night and the night before I didn't because I stayed up too late.
Yeah, I don't do it whenever I'm at the office. I mean, not the office, at the bar because I don't know if I'm getting off before midnight. And so I'm like, I do it on my break at the bar.
Fair.
Um, well, now that you know our entire life story, let me tell you someone else's life story. We are on Bates Motel, season 3, episode 4, called Unbreakable. There's a dash in the middle of the title. I do not know why. It's not just unbreakable. I don't think I ever figured it out, but it's fine.
No, no
It's
idea.
fine. This show episode aired on March 30th of 2015. It was rated 7.9 out of 10. I do not recall what this episode is about. It's probably fine. Probably a good rating. I will figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
I took these notes a week ago and I've watched 2 episodes since to record for the podcast. So like I don't even remember what happened a week ago.
Same.
The number 1 song is Still Uptown Funk.
Of course.
Shocking.
I know.
Number 1 movie is Furious 7, which I have not seen still. And I did put the number 1 book. Did I put the number 1 book last time we recorded?
No.
I put the number 1 fiction book because I've been trying to do a lot of reading, and I thought I'd spice it up a bit. It is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, which I own but haven't read yet. But I think it's like right up my alley. So I will read it one day.
Okay.
It's a similar style to how I'm writing my second book too. So I'm kind of on the fence of like, do I read it now? Do I write my book?
Right.
Because I'm also kind of like in a loop with Riley Sager. So I'm like in a weird spot. But I do have the book and I will be reading it one day. And on this day, the only notable thing that I could find was Trevor Noah took over The Daily Show from Jon Stewart.
Oh.
Which I recall happening.
Yep.
So that is a part of life that we all know about.
Correct.
Unless you are listening to this at 7 years old or less.
Which I hope not.
I hope you're not. We have a new director. It is Chris Nelson. He is known for Lost.
I was like, I know that name so well. And then I was like, oh, I know. Yeah. Chris Nelson is the Lost director. Got it.
Which I've only seen pieces of, so I will watch that one day too. The Greatest American Hero, which I have not seen, I do not know about. And this show called China Beach that was like super popular apparently between the 80s and 90s, like late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
He's also a producer for Bates Motel. So he's been around. This is just his first episode.
Yeah.
And he's an editor on a lot of shows I like. Cruel Summer, which came out last year.
Yeah. You talked about it.
And Roswell, New Mexico, which is the remake of the Roswell show. And that I also like. I think the new season just came out. I need to go watch it. And Mad Men. So kind of all over the place. Thriller, sci-fi, drama.
I really wish that I lived in a Mad Men episode.
I think that would be too stressful for me. I don't think I would enjoy that at all.
I think I say I would enjoy it, but somebody would smack me for the way I talk to them, and then I wouldn't enjoy it anymore.
Right, then you hate everything and everyone. Yes, correct. We have one new writer added to the list. Erica. I'm gonna guess that's meant to be Lopez, but I put Lipez, so maybe it's Lipez.
Okay.
Sometimes I just write things. She is known for Julia, The Morning Show, Tell Me Your Secrets, and Suits. 3 of the 4 I've seen and I enjoy it, which I've only watched the beginning of The Morning Show, but I watched Tell Me Your Secrets, and the writing was there. The directing was okay. Yeah. The writing was there for that show. And then Suits, I just adore Suits. Like
I do like Suits a lot.
This week, the guest star we'll be talking about is who I wanted to talk about last week and then did not. It is Kevin Ram, it's R-A-H-M, who plays Bob Paris. And he's known for Nightcrawler, Nurse Betty, Mad Men, Lethal Weapon, and Madam's Secretary. And last, but certainly not least, and where I know him from, he plays Lee McDermott on Desperate Housewives, which is what I've been
Mm.
lately. So I adore him. He is amazing, and I love him. And he's kind of me on there too, but only kind of. Um, Fun fact, he was a cheerleader at Loyola College Prep in Shreveport, which is an hour from my hometown.
Nice.
He was also raised in Bossier City, which is like basically part of Shreveport.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife is Amy Lonker, who is a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so he's a hometown kid for me, which is fun.
Very nice.
And I love him. So glad to know we're from the same neck of the woods.
Very nice.
Now, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
We start with Norman waking up to an empty house and police lights.
I said, what a way to wake up, man.
Right. Terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex walks up and immediately starts looking for Norma. And Norma goes outside in her PJs and's like, oh no, sorry. So Norma is like coming out and Norman goes outside in his PJs and he's like, did I do it? And she's like, what? No, I mean he's like, did I do it?
Well, okay. Norma is like passed out, or she did pass out. So the paramedics are like trying to take care of her. She's like yelling at the paramedics, and I was like, ma'am, calm down.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then Norman just kept repeating, did I do it? Did I do it? I said, Norman, say, did I do it one more time? Just one more time.
I was like, even if you did do it, this is not the time to discuss it.
No.
Maybe save that for later. And so of course, because Norma doesn't know how to do anything by herself, she calls Dylan. Because why not have he's probably 24 now, 24-year-old child handle everything in your life. And that was one of the shortest intros we've had in a while before the credits.
Yeah.
So God bless. It was intense though. It was short but intense.
Mm-hmm.
So we go back to Norma, and when we come back, we're with Norma and Alex. And she tells him the whole story of what happened with Annika. And he starts being like, okay, well, I need to talk to Norman. I need to do this. And she like calls him out for questioning them. And she's like, no, why are you questioning us? We haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, you were here and you said Norman was the last one to see her. And she's like, no, this is not necessary. And
he's like, why are you acting like that? And she goes, why am I having a compassionate human reaction? I said, that's not what I would have called that. Even like a little bit.
Not even a little bit. No. And then
is this where he said, is Alex one who says, I don't know why chaos swirls around you? Or no, does she say it about herself?
No, Alex says that about her, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I also do not know why chaos swirls around her.
Yeah, so she like goes up next to Norman and Dylan because she's just like, we're not having this conversation. You're done. Like, go away.
Yeah.
And she just casually tells Norma, sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words. Norma casually tells Dylan how she found Norman underwater. She's just like, yeah, he blacked out. He was underwater. It's fine. And he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, that was like soups casual when you thought he was going to drown after you think he killed someone. Like, I don't understand how we can be so calm.
You thought like an hour ago, you thought your kid was participating in a murder suicide, and now you're like, just let him sleep it off.
Yeah. And so Dylan's like, okay, I'll hang here for a bit, see what's happening. Fine. And so Norma goes to get ready for bed, and she pulls out the flash drive that Annika gave her at the end of the last episode, and she's trying to unlock it and can't. And she's trying like Annika. She's trying all these different. She tries sex crazed.
That's what my note says. Why the hell would sex crazed be the password?
Like, Norma, what is happening? Like, I understand you don't know the password, but that's not it. I also don't know the password. I know that's not it.
Correct.
So I cracked up. I couldn't. And so that's basically at the end of the scene is she's kind of trying to hack into this computer and can't.
Yeah.
So the next morning, we're back to normal. Everything's fine. Norma's cooking breakfast. No one died the night before. We don't have this crazy flash drive that's gonna like crucify the whole town. Norman didn't almost just drown in the bathtub. No, fine. Just having breakfast like normal.
Yep.
And Norman comes in and he's just like in a weird place. And he just looks at Norma and he says, "Do you still like me?" She's like, "What?" Like, yes, like, why would he think? And like, I'm like, to be fair, why at this point, why would he think she doesn't like him?
Right.
She tried to save his life. She rushed him away from being like questioned by the police. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't understand where this questioning has come from. But I think it's because I personally think it's because this is the beginning of her and Dylan keeping secrets from Norman,
Well, yeah.
and which tracks for later. But like at this point, I was like, it doesn't make sense yet. Um, so
Well, but I was like, because he said it was because Dylan has been around more. And I said, are you really blaming the weirdness on Dylan being there and not the fact that you're a crazy person?
right? Not that you've killed people.
Not that you just tried to kill yourself?
Right, right. It's fine. Um, so Norma goes to a coffee shop and she just walks up to this guy who looks like he's good at computers and is like, "Can you get into this?" And I was like, "Norma, you
Okay,
don't know
but
what's on there, and you just walk up to this random guy."
she also is like, my mom just died
Yeah.
and she was kind of like forgetful and she changed the password and I don't know how to get into it. And I was like, there's a 0% chance this man believes you.
There's 0% chance, but also like as soon as he gets in, you don't know what's on here, but you know it's something that is going to completely invalidate your story. There's no question that if he
Right.
gets in here, your story is over, and he's gonna know stuff he should know. That's gonna probably then put him in
So
danger.
stupid.
I was like, makes no sense. What are we
No.
doing? Oh goodness. So then we go over the station. We have a bit of a jumping around area.
Yeah.
And we learn that the oh my gosh,
We learned
the
that,
Annika was shot 20 minutes before she showed up at the motel.
and the car that she drove was the other dead girl's car.
Yes, it was registered to the girl we found floating in the lake. Um, and that's it. Till we move forward. So like big notes, and then we go on.
Yeah.
With Caleb, and Caleb is in town with Gunner when he's not supposed to be, and
Mhm.
he's Norma, and he immediately hides in the truck. And I was like, okay, not sketch at all.
It got so weird too. And I was like, hell, what the heck was that?
Yeah, and I was like, how does that make you feel about Caleb? Well, like obviously he's being a weirdo and like super sketch.
I don't know. I'm still so,
I know,
so torn.
I know. Um, and then we go to Emma and Norman, who are studying, and Emma, bless her heart, she's like, let's take a break. And he's like, isn't that what we're doing? And she's like, no, no, let's like go away somewhere. Like, let's go away on a hike.
Yeah.
You want to be alone with this man in the woods? Fine. It's your death. So he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And then as soon as Norma walks in, or like right before, he starts making out with Emma.
Oh
And
no, it was as soon as he heard her.
yeah, and in the creepiest fashion possible, he makes eye contact with Norma in the middle of making out with Emma. And I was like, that is the weirdest thing to have ever
I
happened.
hate everything about it.
I hate everything about Norma.
I literally wrote, Norman, you're so fucking grody.
Truly, though. And Norma's like, hey, everyone, calm down. This is not really like what we do here. And Norman's like, this is my house. And I was like,
Bitch, did you
no,
pay for it? No, it's not.
exactly. This is not your house. You just live here. Like, Jesus Christ. So Norman is getting way too full of himself lately, and I'm not here for it.
Nope.
Um, Let me go to the Arcanum Club. Back at it. And they're talking, and the sheriff's like, we have two dead girls, we have all this stuff going on, and Bob Harris just looks at it and says, you don't have two dead girls, you have two dead hookers. And I was like, this is what's wrong with the world. This is why we have so many unsolved murders, because no one cares.
Yep.
And I got very angry
Mm.
in this moment. It was not pretty. And we learn, aside from all of this angering statements that just keep coming from Bob Paris, we learn that he knows that Annika took the flash drive.
So many red flags at once.
So many. So we go to the library at the school, and Norma is looking up computer code.
I wrote a library book on hacking. What century are we in?
Yeah, I was like, Norma, here's the thing. If you gave this to someone who knows how to hack computers and they couldn't do it, I'm going to guess you can't learn how to do it from a book. Just a wild guess. And then James walks up and starts asking questions.
I said teacher psychologist starting to give me the creeps a little bit.
Yeah, that's also what I'm saying. She tells him that she's using these books because she wants to monitor Norman more. She's like, teenagers, children. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, do you want to grab coffee? And she's like, yeah, is that okay? And he's like, yeah, this is fine. We can do this. She's like, all right. And I was like, you can't. This is not okay.
No.
So they're sitting there going to have coffee, and she's like telling him that she's too close with Norman, and she's like,
Oh my God. She said we're really close. Probably too close. And I said, you don't say.
so like she knows, like it's not a question. And then out of nowhere, she starts sobbing. She just like loses it. I was like, okay, Norma, take a breather. And this man just conned her into therapy, I feel like.
I literally
Like,
go,
maybe
I
that's
go,
therapy,
I go,
but
I thought he was trying to date her, but like therapy works too.
and that's the problem. We're stuck in the middle. We're stuck in the middle. There is no clear line on what is happening, and that is no good. Not ethical. Ugh, not a good way to start therapy. But look, if it gets Norman therapy, I might let it go. So,
Right. Honestly, anything to get this woman into some serious, serious mental health counseling.
yeah. And so now Norma goes back to the motel, and Alex is going through Annika's stuff. And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm searching. She has something, and I can't figure out what it is that the Bob Harris is looking for. I don't know if he said his name, but and she's like, oh, okay, sure, go ahead. And he's like, did she give you anything? And she's like, no. And he's like, why are you lying? And she's like, why are you lying? Like, they're both just like, neither of us are telling the truth. We both know it, and no one's like, so we don't owe each other anything. And he's like, well, it's part of my job to like not tell you everything, which like correct, but
Mhm.
also
I was like, they could work together. I'd be into it.
yeah. And so but she tells him he's a Gold Star sheriff.
She was like, well, you're doing a great job, Sheriff. Gold star. And I
Yeah.
was
Like, okay, Norma, if it wasn't you, we would like
right. But
give it.
also, like, the level of condescending that is like, I tell my pre-Kers that they get gold stars for the
Right.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also, like, the irony because the sheriff's badge is a gold star. Like, it was just like
Right,
the
right.
level, the layers of it. I was like, that's the best insult she could have ever had. Like,
Truly though.
So much.
I was surprised it came from her, but I was glad. It was
Yeah.
a good one.
It was-
Yeah, and so then she goes back into the kitchen and Norman's preparing food. She's like, "Oh, you're making dinner. How nice." And he's like, "Nope, this is for me and Emma. We're going on a picnic." And she's like, "Oh, okay. I'll do dinner then." And he's like talking about this, blah, 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 and he's like, "Do we have this?" And Norma is pissed. And she like goes off on Norman and she's like, "You better not be using Emma." She was like, I will kill you. Like, this is
She's
not.
like, and she's like, you can't have sex with her. And he was like, I don't really feel like that's any of your business. She goes, she's sick. You're gonna kill her. You can't have sex with her. And I was like, man, this is not how you handle this.
This is not how you handle it. And this is also not correct. Like, she had sex and didn't die. This is not Mean Girls. And but she was threatening him.
She had sex and didn't. Coach Carr would be so disappointed.
He would be. Um, so she threatens him and then kind of goes on about her business. And that night, Norma goes to talk to Dylan. And she tells him about the flash drive. And he's like, we have to give this to Alex. And she's like, no, absolutely not. This is the only piece of leverage I have. No one gets this. And she's like, but I need you to figure out how to open it. And I was like, how on earth would Dylan know how to hack into a flash drive? Like, sure, he's in the criminal world, but he's like growing weed. He's not hacking computers.
Right.
Like, he's not technologically advanced.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
But I will
And
say,
then-
first intelligent decision she's made for the entire series to trust Dylan more than Norman.
Very true. Very true. And unfortunately for all of them, Norman hears them keeping secrets from him. And we don't actually know what he heard. We just know that he knows they're keeping something from him.
Right.
Which is not good for anyone because he is gonna lose his head. But it's fine. So now we go on our picnic and it's like starting to rain and it's cold. Emma says, is there anything more romantic than hypothermia? And I was like, Jesus Christ, Emma. I love her. She cracks me up.
Yeah, but he was like, and then he goes, I guess we picked the wrong day for a picnic. She said there are no wrong days for a picnic. I said, no, ma'am, there are definitely wrong days for picnics.
This is not a good day for a picnic. Yeah, no, correct. And they come up on this cabin and she's just like, yeah, let's go in there. And he's like, that's not ours. And she's like, yeah, no, it's fine.
I said, how many weird cabins are in this woods?
Truly though. And like, have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
Right, because this is not, so there was the original weed cabin.
Mm-hmm.
There was the weird creepy sex cabin.
Mm-hmm.
There was Nick Ford's cabin where the freaking box was.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different cabin. Then there's the farm cabin and the neighbor of the how many cabins are in these woods?
How big are these woods? We're in a small town to have this many woods.
I mean, granted, we're in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, but still, eventually you have to come somewhere else. Like, but yeah. So so Emma wants to break into this cabin, which is the dumbest thing she's probably ever wanted to do, but that's fine. Other than being with Norman.
She wanted to date Norman. That's
right. And then she's like, let's light a fire. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. You are breaking and entering into a cabin you don't know and woods that so far the cabins haven't been great news.
Right.
And now you want to light a fire, which is signaling that you're there. But fine. We're going to disregard that, I guess, because we go on with it. So we go to Romero, and he's questioning another girl from the Arcanum Club. And we learn about, he's like asking her if she knows Annika. He's asking her if he knows Lindsay, who was the girl that was found in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned that Lindsay was seeing Bob Paris, which, like, to no one's surprise, this is a weird love triangle that gone wrong.
Also, like, apparently Bob's like a really like straight freak and Lindsay wanted more, and somehow that like just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah. It's very strange. And Lindsay started getting mad at him because she couldn't live the life she wanted because Annika Johnson stepped in. And so we have a weird triangle, and then both women die, and Bob Paris is still alive running the Arcanum Club.
See, okay. I was confused by that because I couldn't understand if she was saying Annika stepped in as in Annika got in between Lindsay and Bob to date Bob, or if Annika stepped in to like protect Lindsay.
She stepped in to date Bob.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand how it was worded.
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
Oh, okay.
Was that he took his attention away from Lindsay and gave it to Annika, and that's where she was not getting what she wanted out of it anymore. So yeah. And then we go back to this creepy cabin in the woods, and Norman is like freaking out about Emma's health. And he's like, "You're going to die." And she's like, "I've lived with this for 18 years. I think I know if I'm going to die or not. Like, I've learned how I go." And he
When
says, "Oh," she tells him, she says, "Today I'm living. Get on board, Bates." I was like, "You tell him, Emma."
yeah.
Um,
And then
and
they started making out.
yeah.
And then
And she's ready to like keep going. And he says, "My mother says I shouldn't have sex with you." And I was like, that is not the way to approach this conversation.
if a man ever said to me, my mother said I shouldn't have sex with you, I
I would,
I don't even know what I would like. I literally don't even know how I would respond. But none of the options in my head are kind or calm.
no, or going anywhere. That is the end. That's the line.
No.
I mean, there are other lines too, but that is a line that for sure would be the end of everything. And she's just like, "I didn't think your mother was coming on this date with us," and she's over it. I was like, "Yes, correct. This is the next step. This is the next thing to do."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so we go back to Dylan and Caleb, and Dylan is pissed because Caleb went to town when he wasn't meant to,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's bleeding. I've forgotten how he cut his hand.
Oh, here, I didn't
Thank
because
you.
I watched this episode while I was at school teaching, and I kept having to pause it because kids were coming in the room to ask me questions. Like I wasn't doing it while I was actively teaching, obviously, but like kids kept coming in the classroom. And Bates, not exactly what you should be watching around children.
Yeah.
And this is as far as I got at school, and then I had to leave for the day. So I remembered it because I left myself on a cliffhanger that I didn't need to be left on. He's up on the roof
Mhm.
of the house putting like lumber together, and
Right.
Dylan is in there, and they're yelling at each other, and he topples off of the roof.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I for sure thought he was dead. Like,
I
I
also
was
thought he was dead.
so sure he was dead. And then I had to go home.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure he died. I was like, I guess it's a good thing I talked about him already because
I was like, I didn't even remotely see that coming. Like, not even a little bit did I see that coming. And then I get home and I turn it back on and I go, oh, thank God he's not dead.
I had an opposite reaction. It would have been so much easier if he had just died, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, so he cut his
Full
hand.
disclosure, we've watched the next two episodes since then, and so I'm like having trouble with like because some of the characters like we learn things that have changed how I feel about them, and so this is difficult for me.
Yes, well, you were doing a great job like keeping it together.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So he's like, "We got to get you to a hospital. You're bleeding. You're gonna die," basically, even though he's really not. But like, maybe I lost a lot of blood when I cut my hand, so you know what happens. And he's like, he can't go to a hospital because he has a warrant. And I was like, of course he does. And poor Dylan, his heart is too good. He's like, "Fine, I'll do it." You don't know how to stitch up a hand,
Okay,
Dylan.
so my next note, he's crying while he's getting his hand stitched, and he's telling Dylan all the things he just wishes he could apologize to Norma about.
Mm-hmm.
And my note says, I genuinely believe him, but I'm sure Courtney doesn't.
Okay, so my next note says Dylan finally asked Caleb to tell him the truth. And Caleb's like, "Yeah, it's all true." And I said, "See, the remorse I can give some leniency for.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times that's where it comes in is like, you do bad things and I hold them against you. But if you give remorse, you show true remorse, I'm going to stop pushing
And
you more."
his version of the story
Uh-huh.
matches what I said was what I thought happened, like in his inability to understand. And when he says that Norma was just smarter than him and figured it out before he did, like I was like, this is what I've been saying about him for weeks.
However, that said, I still think he's a bad person. I think we're going to get more about it in the end, and it's going to come out that he was actually the bad guy all along, even though he made you flip flop a bit. So I think that we've made our flip on him now, and he's gone from being this evil person to being misunderstood, and we're just on the other side of it now. I don't think we're on the other side of it yet. I think this is and the in betweens. So
Right.
I think we're in the weeds, figuratively and literally. So we'll see
Okay.
though.
We'll see.
TBD. So Dylan's driving again back to the motel, and he sees someone has broken into the office. So he pulls out a gun, and then he has a gun pulled on him. And he's, I was like, at this point, Dylan is truly the only one protecting everything and everyone. Like, were it not for Dylan, everyone would be dead by now. So he has this little conversation with the guy who's broken in. He's like, don't worry, we'll be back. We're going to find what we're looking for, but it's fine. And he's like, when the gun pulls on him, he's like, I'll still have time to pull the trigger. He's like, if you shoot me, I will also shoot you. He's
Yeah.
like at this point, he's like, I don't even care about death.
Right.
Which, to be fair,
I didn't realize that this guy was like a crony. At first I thought it was Bob,
I did too at first, yeah.
and I was like, God, I don't fucking like this man.
No, I know. When I saw someone had broken in and it was so like sneakily done, I was like, oh, did Bob actually go himself? And then I saw the guy, I was like, no, obviously not. But yeah, so then Dylan's like, we have to call Romero. Like again, he's telling Norma, and I was like, Norma, just listen to Dylan. He knows what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's like, no. she's like, I'm not doing that. And then Norman comes up and he like wants to know what's going on, and they're just like, no, you can't know this. And he obviously is not very happy about it. So then like Dylan leaves the room and he follows him and he's like, Dylan, what's going on? And Dylan's just like, back off. This is not your concern. You don't need to be in the middle of this. And I was like, yes, very straightforward. Good for you, Dylan. Don't even leave it in like, well, it's this. No, just back off. We're not telling you. It's not your problem. And so Dylan goes back to the cabin with the flash drive because he's finally convinced Norma to at least give him the flash drive so like he can hide it. And he puts it like in a timer. And I was like, what is happening right now? I couldn't figure out what exactly it was, but it's a timer. Yeah. And Caleb starts apologizing again, and he's like, sorry about all this, sorry about like breaking down.
When he went to go, when Dylan left and Norman followed him, I just said, God, Norman, I literally wrote, God damn it, Norman, can't you just leave well enough alone? Like, why?
Right.
Why?
Because he can't. And we learned that because Norman follows him and sees Caleb. And Norman gets pissed and he's like, I have to tell Norma. I have to tell Mother. And he like runs off into the woods. And I was like, poor Dylan, he's gonna lose it. And he does. He just takes off after him. And Caleb's like, it's fine. It's fine. No, Dylan's like, no. And this is like the most crazed I've seen Dylan look probably. And it's because
I literally
just at the end of his thread. Like,
I wrote, I wish someone would just fucking kill Norman. Like, I know that that's not going to happen.
yeah, I know. And like, I was like, of course Norman's going to tell her. And then I was like, and of course Dylan's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, of course you don't know what to do. You're 24. You're not supposed to know what to do. This should not, any of these things should not be your problem.
Like, and who is he gonna ask for advice? His dad / uncle, who is the secret, or his mom, who he's keeping the secret from?
Exactly. Like, there's no one left.
Is he gonna do call Remo and say, here's a fucked up thing about my family?
Yeah. Bless. Oh gosh. So that's where we end the episode. Where we don't know what's coming next. There was a critic review that just said they were feeling bad for it's just called Feeling Bad for Dylan. I was like, yes, correct.
Yeah. Whole show.
And I cannot tell you the trivia because now at this point in the series, I know 3 big spoilers for the episodes. I know an end of season 3 spoiler, I know the finale spoiler, and I know one spoiler that I don't know when it happens. So all good things. I'm doing
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. So yeah, who do you want to punch?
Norman.
Correct. Correct. That would have also been my go-to. But because you picked Norman, I will pick Norma. Because she is insane also.
Mhm.
Um, who is your MVP?
It's hard. Some
Mhm.
good ones. There's some good ones. I'm going to pick someone just because I know that you won't. And I feel very
Oh God.
strongly.
Ugh, ick.
I know. And
Ick.
this is like the biggest thing we've ever thought about on this podcast, but Caleb's confession and
Okay.
breakdown.
Here's my thing. While I understand your feelings, how is he your MVP? He's still not a good person. He's still not doing good things. He's
What did he do? But like, and currently, what is he doing?
making his son in a conflicted position.
But he, which, what he wants is to not, he wants Dylan to not have to be in that position. He wants to be able to apologize to Norma, but he also doesn't want to have to lose his relationship with his kid.
Yeah, but he's putting Dylan in the position that has like having to handle it all.
Well,
He's the parent.
because he was ever taught what a parent's supposed to be.
But Dylan wasn't. Dylan still seems to know what he's supposed to do when he shouldn't have.
Dylan's been to therapy.
Oh, true, true. Dylan's been to therapy. Everyone needs to go to therapy, and not James. Plus, not James.
No, not James. An actual therapist.
An actual therapist, a reputable therapist. My MVP is Emma.
Fair. Emma was one of the ones that I was. Emma, Caleb, and Dylan were the ones that I was
My
juggling in my
toss-up
head.
were Emma and Dylan, and I was like, I keep picking Dylan, so I'm picking Emma this week.
That's
Like,
fair.
nothing's changed for Dylan.
I only picked Caleb because I will probably never pick him again,
Fair,
and you will never pick him. And I do want to
fair.
give credit for what happened in this episode in terms of
Fine,
character development.
fine, fine. I think it's Emma because she is amazing and she stood up for herself,
Yeah,
and
she did.
I love her. So that's that. This is
That's
a really
fair.
short episode. I am so sorry. Like, I watched this Monday morning with the intention of recording Monday night. And so I took like short notes because, like, oh, we're recording in like an hour. So I was like,
Yeah, I started it Monday night, had a breakdown because school started Tuesday morning and I felt super overwhelmed and underprepared. And then finished it half during school yesterday and half when I got home from school finally at 7 o'clock at night. So I literally watched it in 3 separate parts. My notes are in like 4 different colors. I didn't even know what was going on.
my notes are actually the same length as they normally are, but I don't know how to use my brain. So I'm sure there are things that I've missed. I am so sorry. And I talked very fast, I think. So sorry about that too.
It's all right.
Um,
It happens.
this was an episode. Do you have final thoughts on the episode? We can talk about that.
I can't because I've watched too far ahead now. Like my thoughts about
Just like, oh, I see, I see.
like my thoughts are like were like prediction based, like things that I was feeling, but now because I watched the next two episodes already, which I never do before we record,
Right.
I just I'm jumbled in my head.
Fair. Well, I, for one, thought this episode was not as great as it could have been.
Yeah,
It had good
and
elements.
I think that's part of the problem was there were good things about it, but it wasn't a great episode. And the most recent episode I watched, the episode 6, was a lot.
Mhm.
And so I'm just
Yeah.
overwhelmed.
And like the thing is, like this episode, we had the very powerful scene with Caleb, which I think was, I mean, I think it was an excellent scene. Very
Mhm.
well done, very important to the show. But then it was like everything else was just kind of like mediocre. Like,
Yeah.
even if it pushed the story along, I mean, the hike between Emma and Norman, this isn't the first time they've gone on a hike. Like, they didn't do
No, but
anything.
like
Like,
yeah, like so Emma's actual reaction to Norman and Caleb's confession were really the only good parts of the episode. The one scene with Alex and Norma together was like good dialogue and like I love their relationship, but like
but not anything new, not anything
Nothing new, nothing outstanding.
we
Like it was
didn't
just
learn a lot. We just kind of had the storyline. This was just kind of like an episode that was like, here we go to the next episode where we
yeah,
learn
for
some
sure.
things. Like
For
it
sure.
didn't. So I think it might have actually been rated a little higher than it should have been too because of that.
Right.
But I would
Which is interesting because we rarely dip below 8 and this one
yeah,
did and I still felt like it was rated too high.
I agree. I think it still had that high rating because it did have such an intense scene at the end.
Mhm.
And this is the first time really that we've seen Dylan go into that kind of a panic.
Yeah.
And like
I
it
will
was
say
then his voice changed, which was like a big moment. But
I just I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but I forgot. This past Thursday, which unfortunately I didn't realize the dates lined up, or I would have said it in the episode that went out last Thursday. But this past Thursday was Psycho Day. It was 62
yeah,
years since Psycho came out, and my sister Bree has never watched Psycho. She only knows about Bates from us, and like she watches Bates Motel and listens to the
agree.
podcast, and she only knows about Norman Bates from us. But I posted on Instagram some video clips from Psycho for Psycho Day. And she looked at me yesterday and just goes, holy shit, is Freddie Highmore a good actor? Because she didn't know what like Norman was like in Psycho. And just watching those clips, she was like, oh my God.
Freddie Highmore is incredible. And Vera Farmiga. They are both like I have now seen them both in so many different roles that they just master.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them, like
But I mean,
most of them
but
are
I
different
will,
roles.
it's sometimes like creating your own character and like being good, like a good character is one thing. Perfectly recreating an iconic character is another thing. And Vera had um the benefit of the fact that even though we know what the characteristics of Norman's mom
Yeah.
seem to be, we've never seen her
Right.
because she's not in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Norman had to live up to one of the most insane performances in film, and he did it.
And he continues to do it and he
Oh,
continues to surprise us. Like they're like we've seen because I know I talked about this a lot in the beginning that I was like, I'm so concerned he's doing so well now that is it going to get old seeing his face change? Is it going to look the same forever? No, we are halfway through this show now and it
in
still
in
gets
in this episode, the scene when Norma and Dylan were first talking about the jump drive, and Norman was just in the closet, like listening to them, like and just like peeked. I was like, so much ick,
yeah.
like, but in the best way.
And like his face changes. It's not even exactly the same every time, but you get exactly what you're meant to from it.
Yes.
So it's I mean, the acting is still incredible. It just happened to be the storyline this week didn't
Yeah.
play out as much as we wanted. But yeah, so if you have any thoughts, feelings, have any comments about Caleb, one way or another, you can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com.
Yeah.
You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens, and you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for Sci Fi Sunday. See ya.
Bye.